Okay, everyone. Well, I want to start by thanking you for joining us today for our annual semester event, our LinkedIn event. Today, we are being presented with this presentation from the Office of Organizational and Talent Development and Talent Acquisition, where they will discuss how we can really leverage our LinkedIn platform and how we can use LinkedIn learning to increase our skills. So I want to thank them again for joining us today and our students, because this is highly requested and our students would really benefit from this information. Just as a reminder, we have our annual APHA alumni reception on October 25th, 2021 from 6:30 to 8 p.m. This year it is virtual again, and we will be joined and addressed by Dean Borwinkle, where he'll give a very brief state of the school address as well. So we hope that you all are able to join us. We allow students to come, friends, faculty, staff, to join us and participate. We typically hold this event in person at APHA, but obviously due to COVID-19, we will not be able to do that this year. However, it will be a very interactive networking experience, and we will have breakout groups where we'll host giveaways and have really great public health discussions. So now I'll get started with introducing our presenters for today. Our first presenter is going to be Elmer Sigaran. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, please correct me if I'm not, Elmer.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect, Brianna.
He's the Talent Acquisition Specialist 3 with their office. Elmer has been with UT Health for 3 years. His HR experience spans over 8 years, and he has worked in various healthcare organizations, including pharmacy, hospital, specialty clinics, and home health. He currently supports many areas within UT Health, including the School of Public Health, the School of Biomedical Informatics, Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences, and Neurosciences, including neurology, neurosurgery, and ophthalmology. Thank you for joining us, Elmer. Next, we have Alina Martinez. She's a Talent Acquisition Specialist 2. Alina Martinez has been with UT Health for 2 years. Her HR experience spans over 7 years, and she has worked in various healthcare organizations, including hospitals, specialty clinics, and pharmacy. She currently supports many areas within UT Health, including surgery, pediatric surgery, revenue cycle, and physical medicine and rehab. Thank you so much for joining us today, Alina. And then last but certainly not least, we have Serene Juber. Serene is an organizational and development and engagement counseling. I don't know. That is even an organizational development and engagement counseling member of the team.
So it's a consultant. It's a consultant.
I don't know what it is. So Serene has been with UT Health since 2014 and serves as the Organizational Development and Engagement Consultant. She holds a Master of Science in Instructional Technology and a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from McNeese State University. Her role focuses on leading employee engagement and internal employee communication projects and initiatives, as well as conducting data research, analysis, and reporting. Thank you so much for joining us today, Serene. I will go ahead and pass this off to you all so you can begin with your presentations, and I will start with passing it to Elmer.
Awesome. All right, everyone, and welcome. So I'm very excited to be speaking with you all about both LinkedIn, the networking aspect of this presentation, which I know this entire presentation is based upon, but I'm also here to talk to you about interview tips and tricks to help you really stand out as a candidate and present yourself to employers. So I wanted to spend the first part of this presentation talking about that. All right. So let's begin by talking about your cover letter and resume preparation. Very good information here today. And feel free to stop me if you have any questions throughout this process. I'm more than happy to answer any questions as well. All right. So your cover letter and your resume are really the foundation of your employment search. So given that most employers nowadays only accept online applications, your cover letter and your resume are very important to really introduce yourself and for prospective employers and really convey your intent to apply for a position. So these documents should be able to provide employers with a snapshot of your career and also the skills and qualifications you have for a position that you're applying for. You certainly want to make sure that your resume markets your strengths and those things that will impress a potential employer. So it's always a good idea to include a cover letter. In addition to a resume when applying for a position, a cover letter is really a good way of adding additional information and include information about the skills and qualifications you possess for the positions you're applying for. So it shouldn't be a repeat of what's on your resume. Your resume will list your skills, but your cover letter will highlight how you put those skills to use. For instance, let's say that I'm applying for a position that requires me to use a certain specific software, let's say Excel, for instance. Your resume might include a line item that says, I've worked with Excel and other Microsoft Office products, but your cover letter would state what you did with Excel. So your cover letter could say something like, I used Excel to create spreadsheets for data entry and was also able to create reports that outline my progress on a very important project that I work on in my previous or current position. All right, so you also want to include your contact information on both your cover letter and your resume. You want to include your phone number on both documents and your email address to be able to be contacted. Your resume should highlight your most relevant experience and information that is relevant to the position that you're applying for. And when listing your experience, try to stay away from listing your job description. So don't just copy and paste your job description. You want to use information like including professional accomplishments when listing information on your resume. So it should include snapshots of your professional experience and skills. So if I'm applying for, an administrative assistant position or some kind of admin role, instead of listing as a line item on my resume, I completed administrative tasks for my department, I would want to list those accomplishments. So I can say that I supported 3 departments with various managers and helped them with scheduling, filing, data processing, and things of that sort. So you want to make sure that you don't include too much information. You want to keep each job or a line item 4 to 5 lines for each position. You want to make sure that your resume is very concise. You want to keep it up to 2 pages max. Definitely check for spelling errors. Any kind of software that we utilize now to create our resumes and our cover letters should have an option for you to spell check everything. So before you submit it out or save it, make sure each time you update it, make sure you check for those spelling errors. Definitely use a spell check. And then other things to remember regarding your resume, you want to make sure you list your educational accomplishments, starting with the most recent or highest degree you've completed. You want to list the name of the institution, your degree and your major. Your employment history should also be in chronological order and should include dates of employment, the employer's name, and your job title. Very, very important. We, as recruiters, see resumes on a daily basis. One thing that I can tell you is that we are looking for those employment dates and make sure that the title is listed to check for those employment gaps. So just make sure you list everything in chronological order. Make it easy for the individual or individuals or company that is receiving that information make it easy for them to review. So they're reviewing constantly many applicants, hundreds of applications on a daily basis. So you want to make sure it's as easy to review as possible. All right. So things you want to, when considering resume preparation, things you want to stay away from when preparing your resume. Like I mentioned before, don't steal the job description's exact wording or obvious skills. You never want to include confidential information such as your birth date or health information. You don't want to include any of that, or social security numbers I've been seen on there. So don't include any of that information. And then you want to stay away from including any kind of random or unrelated or off-putting information. So this can include, religious affiliations, anything political or controversial affiliations, for instance, unless they directly relate to the job that you're applying for. You also want to stay away from listing things that can be considered cliches or jargon. So things like I'm a self-starter, or there's many other ones, or I'm a team player, for instance. Those are things I can think of that you want to list. Those things are really just fluff, and you want to stay away from phrases like that. And I know there are a ton of awesome fonts out there and graphics that you can utilize, but you want to keep your resume, your cover letter to 2 fonts maximum. So you want to keep it very simple and easy to read. You don't want to go crazy with those fonts and make it, very difficult for someone to understand or have too much going on the page. And another important thing to remember is avoid sending your resume as a Word file. PDF is always key. It's the preferred method. I know that when we receive Word files, sometimes if we're not using the same version of the program that you created your resume on, it could mess up the formatting, or it could make it very difficult for us to understand or read, or sometimes it even comes out in code. So just note to self is always keep it as a PDF format. All right, so now let's move on to interview preparation. So you want to make sure that you research the information about the organization or the interviewer which you're applying for or interviewing with. You can always anticipate you will be asked why you're interested in a position with that organization, and having that knowledge of the organization or company will definitely set you apart from those that don't do that research, right? And then you also want to make connections with your experience with the company needs. We're going to go over what's called the STAR method, which is an absolute great tool to use and really thought process to stick behind anytime you go into an interview. All right. You also want to print out extra copies of your resume when you go into an interview. You might not always know how many individuals you'll be meeting with, so it's always good to have a few extra copies. This obviously wouldn't apply for a virtual interview, but you do want to make sure you also have that electronic PDF ready to go in case they'd like you to email it to the entire team or something like that. Always make sure you know where you're going and where to report to. Things like parking, where am I going to park? Who am I going to report to when I arrive to the facility or the office? I know that these things can be stressful, already going into the interview. You're stressed out about the interview, you're nervous about going into it, so having all the information about where you're going, who to report to, where to park, and all that good stuff is always key. And make sure you practice. So always go over examples of your accomplishments many times before you go into the interview, and use that STAR method that we're going to discuss here in a few seconds. All right, so here is the STAR method that I mentioned previously. It's a structured manner of responding to behavioral-based interview questions by discussing the specific situation, the task, the action, and the results of the situation that you're describing. So you can anticipate most interviews will be structured using this STAR method, and you can anticipate that most of those questions can follow this format to some way, shape, or form. And so learning this method, the STAR method, when answering interview questions can definitely set you apart and help you be extremely prepared for that big day. So let's start by talking about the situation. So you want to describe a situation that you were in or a task that you were needing to accomplish or needed to accomplish. You want to describe that information and be specific about the event or the situation, not a generalized description of what you've done in the past. So be sure to give enough detail for the interviewer to understand. So this situation can be from a previous job, if you don't have any previous employment history. It could be from a volunteer event, let's say, or any other relevant event. The task is, what goal are you working towards? So you want to describe the task you had to complete, including the expectations and challenges that it would involve. So moving on to the action, you want to describe the actions you took to address the situation, and you want to use an appropriate amount of detail and keep the focus on you. What specific steps did you take to complete this particular task or contribute to the situation? You want to be careful and don't describe what the team did or what other people in your department or your team did. You want to use words like I or me, when describing these actions. And when talking about the result, you want to describe the outcome of your actions, and don't be shy about taking credit for your behavior. What was the outcome of the event or the situation? How did the event end? What did you accomplish? What did you learn? Make sure that you give answers that could paint you in a positive light. You want to make sure that you follow all parts of this STAR process when answering a behavioral-based interview questions, and you want to be specific as possible at all times without rambling on too much about the fluff in between or things that are not relevant to the situation. Also, try to eliminate any examples that do not paint you in a positive light. But you also want to keep in mind that sometimes examples that have a negative result can highlight your strengths in the face of adversity or whatnot. So if you describe a situation where you lost a bid to a particular employer or to a particular thing that you did with your previous company, that can always be turned into a positive situation and how you dealt with it in the face of adversity. So let me go ahead and give you an example of the STAR method. Let's say I'm going to give you a very general idea of how this method will work. So let me use an example of let's say I worked at a local newspaper, for instance. My situation could be that my advertising revenue was falling off for the local newspaper, and some of our long-term contracts weren't renewing their contracts. Let's say that was the situation. That was the task at hand, the situation at hand. So the task would be what it was that I was expected to contribute or to do in that situation. So it could be that my goal was to generate new ideas or new revenue and create materials and incentives that would result in some kind of increase in contracts for my newspaper. So let's say that my task was I had to make sure that I had 15% more contracts signed within the next year. So the action that I took, I want to explain what I did and how I did it. So I can say that I designed new promotional material and had a rate sheet and compared the benefits with my teammates, and I was the one who presented all the information to my teammates. I also met with account executives and someone from other departments that can explain to me how to market competitive selling strategies. So I did all the legwork to ensure that I knew how to sell the newspaper and to get additional contracts. And then if it ended in a positive light, I can see that my result was that I signed additional contracts with 15 new advertisers and got some special supplements as well for the newspaper. And I increased the overall revenue for the newspaper by 20%. So that's just a basic example of how to use the STAR method. So you want to be as specific as possible and ensure that you describe what you did for the situation and examples that you provide. So I'm going to stop here and stop for any questions that anyone may have before Alina continues with the networking portion of our presentation. All right, and I'm not seeing any questions so far. So Lena, go ahead and kick us off with networking.
Okay, thank you. Let me go ahead and get this pulled up on my end. Let's see. Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, Serene, but I have a few minutes, right? I have about 5-10 minutes.
Yes, you can take as much as you need.
Okay, great. Okay, so hi, my name is Alina. I know that I presented my information a little bit earlier, but yes, I'm talent acquisition specialist too. And I'm going to go over the networking portion of LinkedIn. So let's get into that. Okay, so networking events and conferences. So what we recommend, especially when you're about to get into, jump into a whole new, the world of work, right? You want to join as many professional organizations as possible. Almost every type of industry has different types of social mixers, seminars, workshops, things like that, to where you'll be able to attend. And when I mean every industry, really almost every industry has it. If they don't have anything, where you can meet up in person or any type of virtual events, they definitely do have just groups where you can even, join, ask questions, give each other updates, things like that. So we always recommend joining as many professional organizations as possible. And a lot of those groups are within LinkedIn. And then, of course, advice, follow-up, offer to help. So make sure that you're asking questions and engaging in conversation, following up with connections, and always offer to return the favor. So on LinkedIn, as I mentioned, with these organizations and groups that you're able to join, reach out to those people. I'm just going to throw out an example. Let's just say it's a coding position and they have a group for coders. You can reach out to the different organizations that you may be interested in and, find out who's in charge of certain departments. Just by LinkedIn, you can get all of that information looking at someone's profile. Make sure to connect with as many people as possible, engage with them. Once they engage back, make sure to be prompt, follow up with them, ask questions. And if someone ever needs that help from you, make sure to be just as responsive as somebody was to you at one point when you were reaching out. And social media is really the biggest power tool we have nowadays. So make sure to really, really, use that LinkedIn, use Twitter, use it as a database for getting information on future conferences, career fairs, things like that. LinkedIn always posts about events and conferences that they're going to have, again, whether they be in person or virtual. They're always posting about different events and conferences they're going to have. They post time, date, information, things like that. So make sure to just keep an eye out for those things and join as many of those as you can, because the more you network, the more you get your name out there, people start to notice that. If you're becoming involved in several different networks, several different meetings, group meetings, things like that, people start to notice and they know that you're really interested in, an opportunity there. So definitely make sure to access social media or use that social media as much as possible. Another thing to do with your classmates, specifically and colleagues, there's a lot of you that are, in school for the same thing. Just make sure that you are reaching out to each other, leveraging off of each other, helping each other, allowing each other to work with each other so that you can help each other find opportunities, right? So if one of you starts working at an organization and the other, they're hiring, you have a friend that or a colleague that that can do this job, that is interested in this opportunity, make sure to always, of course, refer them and, in turn do the same favor back. So that's 40% of the hires come from referrals. I can tell you that for sure, coming from the talent acquisition side. A lot of our hires are referrals. So we highly recommend that. Okay, now focusing further in on LinkedIn, make sure that your profile is the center of attention. When someone goes to your profile, you want to make sure that that is, that captures them. There's so many different sections within LinkedIn that they're going to want to look through and read. So make sure that that's full, has all the information, and that it's, again, that center of attention. Make sure that there's no gaps. Make sure that your profile is like your resume, in the way that it has your most recent work at the top, your oldest work at the bottom, that you have very detailed information on what you did in that position, the exact time you were working there, and of course where it was located. So as much information as you can put in there, make sure to do that. Use keywords to help your profile come up in search results. Again, I'll go back to, for example, coding. If you have certifications, if you have specific, things you were doing within that position, make sure to put those keywords in there, because when someone is searching a profile, again, for, coding, for example, it'll populate you. Even if your title may have not been a coder, but you did some coding, it's still going to pull you up because you've done that in the past. So just make sure that you are listing all that information and putting as many keywords that'll help your profile populate when that search comes up. And again, I know I discussed this a minute ago, but connect, interact, make sure you're doing this on LinkedIn with several different people, as well as organizations, groups, connect with individuals within your industry, specifically individuals that may be able to kind of help you gain insight into the career that you're focusing on. This will allow you to build relationships and continue to, connect with more people within that industry. Keep updated content and join groups. So present yourself as an expert in the industry. Even though you may not have all of that experience, knowing people, that's a huge power. So being able to connect with different people, and like I mentioned earlier, attending different events and mixers, things like that, whether they be virtual or not, people see that you're attending this. It helps keep you active in that specific group. So join as many active groups, ensure your profile is viewed as many members in that specific industry that you're interested in. All right, now LinkedIn and UT Health. This goes back to UT Health. At UT Health, as an organization, we give veterans primary consideration in the recruitment process, so much more than many other organizations. So if you are a veteran, always, always, always make sure to list that everywhere, on your applications, on your profile, on your resume, on your LinkedIn. I mean, when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. I know a lot of people know that, but there is a good amount of people that, veterans that are not listing that information in there. And it makes a huge difference. Like I said, at UT Health as an organization, we do give a primary consideration to our veterans. So you want to make sure that you list that, some people list it on their resume, but don't put it on their LinkedIn profile. 100% make sure to include that information on there, and as much information as you have from when you were a veteran, or from your status, your information, onto your LinkedIn profile. So just make sure that all of that information is in there as well. Okay, just to this is more so to give you all an example of LinkedIn profiles. This right here is what a bad example looks like of a LinkedIn profile. I know starting off, a lot of people will start creating their profile and, maybe want to move, go through it slowly, add things little by little. That's understandable. However, you want to make sure it's a fully built profile, and that you take the time to say, hey, I'm going to set aside a couple hours of my day to open up LinkedIn, to create a profile, and at least make it look good. Like I said, I know you want to continue to add things, but at least make it a good profile before you kind of leave it as is. Make sure you have your profile photo, make sure you have some tagline information, make sure you have your experience listed. So those are the main things. I know there's a lot more extra little things that you can add on to your LinkedIn profile, but the most important things are going to be the experience and your photo, tagline information. You want to make sure that all of that is there before you take a little break and finish adding things later. So just make sure that more important information is on there. You definitely don't want it looking like what we see here, because that just doesn't look good. They might see you and may not look again. You may have missed an opportunity for someone within the industry that may have been interested because you didn't have a fully equipped profile. So just make sure that you take the time to update it and that everything looks good on the profile before calling it a day and letting it look like this. Okay, so this is a good example of a LinkedIn profile. Look at how full that looks. He's got information on there, experience, pictures, certifications, all the publications, where he's located, his bio, as well as all the connections that he's, all the connections that he has. The more connections, the better, because that shows how serious you are about connecting with people within the industry, or not even within the industry, just connecting with people to make sure that you're developing these relationships and getting to know people to get yourself out there. So a lot of connections are a good thing. Make sure you have a good bio with all of your information on what kind of a good bio on your experience, who you are, what you're looking for. Of course, your location, so people know where you're located, open to relocation, your publications, certifications, huge deal as well. You want to make sure you have that listed, because like I said, if someone's doing a search on you and you may not have the experience, but you have a certification that's required, you're going to populate and they're going to pull up your profile as long as you have that certification. So make sure you list all of that information on there. All right, and then here is under show your availability. So under your profile, whenever you are looking for new opportunities, once you've created your profile, you can click that open to button and it'll allow you to basically, show that you're open to new opportunities. This will allow employers to see that, you are actively looking for new opportunities at this specific time. Now, but some people may be employed and they have a profile, but they're not actively looking. In that case, you don't have to show that you're open to that, of course, because you may be happy in your position. You're not looking for a new opportunity at this time. However, for somebody who is starting, getting their feet out there, wanting to look for new opportunities, I always recommend that you make sure you put open to the new opportunity so that it shows you're actively looking. And right here is where you can edit the kind of information or the kind of work that you're open to. So you can put in Houston, Texas, and there's an option there now to click remote work. So you can click that as well, or you can add different locations, open for relocation, add if you're looking for something right away, if you're flexible. And then of course, if you're looking for a full-time opportunity, just contract, whatever that might be, you're able to kind of filter through that and make sure you're listing the exact information that you're open to, and that's what they will see. And then right there under decide who sees that you're open to opportunities, you can allow this for all LinkedIn members. So anybody who used your profile will see that you're open to opportunities, or you can do it for recruiters only. So this way, when a recruiter is looking for, someone with your experience, they'll be able to see that you're open to other opportunities, but not everyone else will. So if I went to visit your profile, I wouldn't, as a recruiter, I would be able to see that you are open to new opportunities. However, other peers, maybe other managers, things like they might not be able to see that, but there is an option there that you can select where either everyone can see that or just the recruiters. Okay, now accomplishments. This is a pretty big thing too that I recommend when it comes to listing information on your LinkedIn. Make sure that you're listing, or actually when you on your LinkedIn profile, don't actually just put the job description of what you're doing. So as a talent acquisition specialist, it wouldn't make sense for me to just say, oh, I'm a talent acquisition specialist, I hired people for these roles. You want to list what you actually achieved in that role. Fiscal year 2020, we hired, 1,700 people. We were not, just be as specific as possible when it comes to what you did in your role, instead of just saying, I hire, I recruit, the obvious information. You want to have very detailed information so that people can see, oh, she hired this many people in this time frame, or even though there was a hiring freeze, they were able to hire this many people. So just giving as much information as possible will make it a lot, more effective for people to say, this person actually took the time to put this information in there and, actually accomplished great things within their position. So then as an example down there, redefine the research process to reduce time to contact participants. So just being as detailed as possible, providing as much information as possible in your profile. All right, additional LinkedIn resources. So if you look at the top under more resources, there's a few extra things that, LinkedIn hasn't always had. Options to prepare for an interview. You can select that, and then it'll give you a few different questions and ways to prepare for an interview so that you have that extra resource and you're not, just kind of caught off guard. I know after people, after you graduate and you're starting to look for those opportunities, you're prepared to an extent, but there's a lot of things that you may still have questions about. This is a great resource for you to be able to get in there and get an idea of what to expect, what you can ask, so you'll have an idea of what's coming. So there it gives you kind of a good list of common questions. They're going to ask you about yourself, tell them about what you've done, your experience, greatest strengths, greatest weaknesses. Always have those questions in mind and have an idea of what you would answer to that, and be honest. You don't want to, like Elmer said earlier, just kind of ramble on about things either, but you want to definitely say what it is and have a solid answer in mind about, what you would say about yourself. So whatever that weakness might be, whatever that strength might be, why should we hire you? Is there something you did in school? Is there some type of experience that you bring to the table? Anything like that. You just want to think about all those things and have that in mind when you're, about to participate in an interview. All right, top LinkedIn tips. So again, we went over this for the most part, but just kind of to recap, make sure that you do have a picture. Most importantly, have a picture of yourself along with all of your experience and accomplishments, certifications. All those things are 100% necessity so that people know what they're even looking at. They want to know, who are you? What are you looking for? What experience do you have? Those are the most important things about a LinkedIn profile. And then again, connecting with people. Connect with as many contacts as possible on your LinkedIn. This will optimize your opportunity to get yourself out there and to get connecting with people within your industry that might help you get to that next step in your job search. And then, of course, make sure it's public. You want to make sure that that profile is public so that anyone can go on there and look at it, especially within your industry, especially if you're looking for new opportunities. Some people who are no longer looking for new opportunities choose not to keep it public. That's understandable, but I always recommend to keep it public because recruiters are always looking. There's always going to be great opportunities that they'll want to discuss with you, especially if you're actively looking for opportunities. So, you don't want to make the mistake of having all this great information and then not having it public. So just make sure that your profile is public. Lastly, professionalism, salary negotiation after the interview, appropriate to ask questions. So always, I highly recommend to ask questions after an interview. Ask what interviews like most about the organization. This will give you an understanding of, what that organization stands for in the eyes of the employee. Ask for a timeline of that interview process. So you'll have an idea of when you might be contacted or how long that'll take. Ask about that training process. When you start the position, will you be training for a whole month? Will you be training for 2 weeks? Will you be, jumping in with your feet on the ground? It just, gives you a good idea of what to expect in that aspect. And then, of course, changing your salary expectations. A lot of people do market range. They'll look at the market, see what it is, but that's not going to be the same for every organization. State organizations are different. Independent companies are different. It's always going to be different. Some people for the same position will be able to pay more because maybe they cover their medical benefits, or maybe, they don't have medical benefits. So whatever that case might be, just, always keep an open mind and take what you see in the market range with a grain of salt, because that can very much vary from organization to organization. And think long-term benefits of the role. If the salary may not be exactly what you're looking for, really make sure to take a look at benefits. I know when people first start looking for jobs, they're primarily looking at that pay rate, right? What that salary will be like. But you want to also look at the benefits of the role. Are you able to work from home? Are you going to have fully covered benefits? Whatever those things might be, make sure you're looking at it as a whole and as a package, and making all those considerations, considering all those things aside from just what that pay might be. But at the end of the day, you want to decide what works best for you and stick with that. You'll know what works best for you, but just make sure to keep an open mind and consider all of those things. All right, that's it for my end. Any questions about any of those networking, LinkedIn, all that information that I presented?
It looks like we have a question. How
Okay.
likely is an employer to search for and find a potential employee on LinkedIn? Is it common? And is updating to LinkedIn Premium useful when actively looking for a job?
Okay, so yes, it is common for people to actively find you on LinkedIn whenever you have your profile. If it's, let's just say, like I said a minute ago, I'm just going to stick with this coding. But if you're a coder, you just started, you maybe just got your certification, you don't have experience, but you created a great profile to show that you went to school for this, you have a certification, and you're actively looking. 100%. If a supervisor or recruiter is going to be searching for anybody with coding experience, you will pop up, and it is very likely that you will be reached out to. As long as you're meeting those qualifications of what they're looking for, they'll reach out. Many people get many inbox notifications about organizations and recruiters reaching out to them very regularly. I myself, as a recruiter, reach out to people as well when I'm looking to fill certain positions very often. They may not have applied to our jobs ever, but I find them on LinkedIn and I reach out to them. So it is very likely. Now, in regards to your question about upgrading to, was it LinkedIn Premium? Was that the question?
Yes.
Yes, that is not something you have to do. That is, of course, a personal choice. However, you certainly do not need to upgrade to LinkedIn Premium to reap all the benefits of having a profile. Several of us in talent acquisition don't have that, and we still have great access to a lot of things, and we still have great profiles ourselves. So there is no need to do that. If you want to, you can, but I don't believe it would really optimize your opportunity for people reaching out to you per se. So that is certainly not necessary.
Awesome. Thank you. It doesn't look like we have any other questions yet.
Perfect. Let me go ahead and stop sharing. Okay. Let me hand this back to you, Brianna, right? First to Serene, right? Let me go ahead and pass it to Serene. Okay. There we go.
Thank you, Alina.
Of course.
Brianna, how much time do I have?
You have a little over 10 minutes, and we'll probably
Okay, I think I got it. I think I can get it done.
Okay.
All right, so thank you, everyone. So along the lines, one of the benefits that you have as a student is access to LinkedIn Learning. And the institution actually covered this for all employees and students a couple years ago. So it is definitely a benefit to you, because normally you have to pay for this out of your pocket. But as long as you're a student or an employee of UT Health, you have access to it. So a couple of things that we want to talk about today is, first and foremost, if you're not familiar with LinkedIn Learning, what is LinkedIn Learning? Benefits for you as a learner. And then I'm going to go through a quick live demo just to show you the dashboard, what it looks like, and how to search for a few things. And then go over some learner success tips, and then have hopefully an opportunity for any questions that you may have. So first and foremost, about LinkedIn Learning. It is an award-winning industry leader in online, on-demand training. It has a digital library of more than 16,000 courses and 150 learning paths, covering a wide range of technical, business, software, and creative topics. And that continues to get updated. They have an amazing course map that they come up with full of content that they're working on production for, things of that nature that may be up and coming for years to come. So they are definitely progressive in how they develop their content and put it out there as well. You have the opportunity to work toward continuing education units, things like that, to just enhance your position, your career. And as you get out into and defining what that looks like for you as well, you can prepare for those professional certifications as well as like the PMP, anything with SHRM, Microsoft Office, anything that's going to set you apart, as Alina and Elma both mentioned, that you can add that to your actual LinkedIn for employers to, for you to stand out. And so you can explore any courses that are more relevant to your goals for your career, what you're seeking, as well as based on your experience. Or your future experience as well. And the cool thing is that they actually have a production studio. So all of the experts come into this production studio and record the content there as well. So that's a neat thing. Sometimes you find content like this, it's outsourced, but LinkedIn is a little bit different with their learning concept as well. And then you also have the opportunity as you're going through the content to reinforce it with quizzes, exercise files, anything that's going to help you enhance your knowledge and enhance your learning in the course and the content there. So what's in it for you is you have the opportunity for career development. As a student finishing up or getting to the place of where you're finishing up your schooling is what's next. And so you always want to keep your skills fresh. You always want to make sure that you are providing options and adding to your toolkit, especially as you go out into the career world, and helps you define what direction you want to go. And it also ensures that you have those tools for success. Also goal development. We all set goals, we put those goals into motion, and then we want to have options and resources to help us to reinforce the goals that we have for ourselves within our career, and even from a personal perspective. Also, training and upskilling is also important for you as well. You can upskill yourself in a scalable and efficient way, enhance your ability through recommended content, and refresh your skills both personally and professionally.
I'm not sure if it's just my screen, but we can't see your screen anymore. Is that okay?
Yeah, it just went away.
It just went away. This is so strange.
It is.
Let me try sharing. Let me stop sharing and then I'll try it again.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure what happened. I was just going right along.
It shows that you're not even on there anymore, and not even as a panelist anymore.
Right.
Oh my word. Okay, so what happened?
Oh no. You can send the presentation to me really quickly.
Okay.
Because we can still hear you.
Let's see. Oh, that's what it is. I don't have internet, so I cannot send it to you, Brianna.
Oh no, the storm.
Yes, the weather. Yes.
Okay, no worries.
But I can definitely send that out to you guys. I can send it out to you. I'm on the phone. That's why you probably can still hear me.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I have no internet connection right now. That is why I disappeared from you guys.
Okay, that absolutely makes sense. Well, yeah, maybe we'll just send the presentation over to our students. I know I'll be sending over the recording as well as an event feedback survey, so we can send that PowerPoint to them as well, if you don't mind sharing it with them.
Yeah, definitely. We can share. I can share it with you guys, and it'll also have our contact information as well. If you have any questions, they can email our team. But our email address is ilearn@uth.tmc.edu, and we'll definitely be glad to help them if they want to set up a call or anything like that. We can definitely help the best we can. It's unfortunate that the storm hit and there's no internet here.
I know. I'm wondering, am I able to, I'm trying to pull mine up, and maybe can you just, I don't know, give them a brief, because that was some of the other questions we had was about LinkedIn Learning. I think that's why majority of them probably what they were waiting on. So let me just,
do we have, I mean, if they want to put questions, maybe you can read them out to me and I can do my best to answer.
Okay. If you all have questions, drop them in the Q&A chat. Otherwise, we can go ahead and conclude.
Let's see. Sergio is on, I believe, but I don't think he's on as a panelist. I think this presentation is on our team. Sergio, if you hear me, I don't know if he can send it to you, Brianna.
Okay. Someone asked, do we have access to LinkedIn Learning even after, Sergio said he's working on that now, even after graduation from UT? And I can answer that. I know that here at the School of Public Health, we've explored the idea of purchasing licenses for our alumni, but we have not yet done that. So currently it's only available to current students.
That's correct. Yes. So that's one thing we do encourage you to do is once you get access and you're going through all the content, you're completing all the content, you want to make sure if you have not activated your account is that you make sure you sync it to your actual LinkedIn profile, because once you complete that content, you have the option to share that. And that's something else that adds to your skill base and what employers see as well, that you are actually taking the initiative or have taken the initiative to upskill yourself in your respective areas as well. Being that you guys are also public health, school public health, there's a lot of data that you guys are involved in as well. And so one of the things that I wanted to show you today was how to search and for anything with any topic you can imagine. And the content that may be available to you, you do have the option to create sort of a collection. And so what a collection is it's an arrangement of different courses, videos, anything that you save and create on a separate topic. You have the ability to go back and revisit that. And let's say you wanted, for example, your analysis or your data, you find courses relevant to that, you can create your own collection. And then that way, once you're, you have some time to go back to it, all of that information, the content is in one place for you. So that's another benefit that you have of LinkedIn Learning there.
And what I'm doing right now, Serene, as you're talking, I'm on the main page of LinkedIn Learning, scrolling through the platform so that they can see what types of courses are offered on the platform. So
okay, so you're on the main page.
So if you to give them a visual.
Okay, so if you hit browse, Brianna,
Mm-hmm.
You should see, there should pop up those three main areas of the topic areas of technical, business, software, and creative. And those are just like general topics that they base everything on. It's not necessarily the entire scope of the platform. And so if you go in and type next to in that search bar, if you type in data cleaning, try that. It's going to populate a lot of videos, a lot of content around that topic that you entered.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you look over to the right of the course, you'll see kind of like a little, I call it a little save ribbon or whatever, and you can click that. So just pick a course and click that, and then I can show you guys, or I can walk Brianna through how to show you guys where that is saved at, because that's going to be important, because your time is definitely used in learning in your courses, in your schooling. And so you want to be able to just, oh, hey, that's a great course, but I want to go back and revisit it, and I just don't have time. So once you click save and you go to My Learning, it's going to be the open book at the top. If you click that, that is going to be where all of your content that you completed, any content that you saved, anything that you have started and haven't finished. For me, I sometimes find courses and I only need one video. A video is 3 to 5 minutes, and a course can be a collection of videos. So that's something important to remember. Mm-hmm. One other thing that I want to mention is Learning Paths. I mentioned this when I talked about or shared with you about LinkedIn Learning. So the difference between a learning path and a collection is a learning path is sequential. It is each course that is in the learning path builds upon the next one. So you have to take it in the order that it is created. And then once you're done, you get a certificate there as well. And you can, again, share that to your LinkedIn to enhance your LinkedIn profile there. You can also print that out as well. You have the option to do that too. But the collection, as I mentioned, you can take any course, any content that you have at any point in time. So a collection is not sequential. Mm-hmm. So that's where, for me, for example, for our team, when UT Health transitioned over to Microsoft Teams, I created a collection for our team to start learning more about it and how we can use it a little bit more efficiently for our team dealings and anything our clients that we see as well. So just something to remember there, the difference between those two.
Awesome. That is actually very helpful. As you were discussing it, I was walking through it. So they absolutely have the visual because you walked me through it very well. So thank you.
I've done this so long. I think I'm like sitting here. I'm like, okay, go from memory because I obviously can't see anything on my computer, but I'm
Right.
going from memory here.
No, it was perfect. It was perfect. Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions before we end? And if you think of any in the future, feel free to send that to us at sphcareerservices@uth.tmc.edu or ilearn@uth.tmc.edu,
Mhm.
and we will get back to you as soon as possible.
Brianna, does everyone have the activation guide as well? Do you have access to that? If not, I can send that to you as well.
Can you please resend that to me? I believe it's actually saved in our shared drive, but I just want to make sure. So if you
Okay.
could send that to me.
Okay, yes, I'll send that to you as soon as I get access to internet again. Hopefully today I will send that to you, but I'll also send the presentation from today as well. And you can definitely send that out to everybody. And it also has our contact information there as well. And if they run into any issues with single sign-on, if they haven't activated, we are here, definitely here to help with that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you all. Elmer, Alina, and Serene, you have been great. And the students are thanking you all for your amazing presentations and the information. So thank you.
Definitely glad to help, and we will be your biggest cheerleaders and cheer you on throughout your journey, that's for sure. So best of luck to everybody on the call, and thank you for having us today.
Awesome. Thank you all. Have a great day.